The main concepts that we're going to be talking about today: supplier consolidations, supplier conferences, formal supplier report cards or a metric system, supplier technical reviews, lean relationships with your suppliers, inventory pull systems, NSMI. May also talk a little bit about SOI, or supplier-owned inventory, but the focus is on supplier management of inventory, and then infrastructure reductions. You'll notice that I'm talking about suppliers. This may be more a few years back, but always used to be called vendor management, or your vendors providing you the materials. In our organization, we have made a concentrated effort to refer to our suppliers as suppliers. And the reason being is that vendors, even though there's no dictionary definitional difference or whatnot, there's a connotative one, there's a cultural one. Vendors, the way I look at it, you have limited frequency of purchases and buys, you have a limited relationship, and you're typically going for the best price. You're either going into a shop because you need to get something last minute, you're picking it up because there's a sale tag on it. Or the biggest example is the hot dog vendor. It's somebody, you go there for a hot dog, you really don't know the guy, it's probably a one-time deal, etc. But when you talk about suppliers, you're talking about a frequent provider relationship, somebody that you have a long-term relationship with, and you get the best overall cost. Take a look at it again. If you're looking at a couple items that you consider, you really don't care about price or quality or whatnot, you just need to get it and keep it in the household, you're going to go to any shop and pick it up. But I bet you most of you or your families have your favorite grocery store that you will always go to, even if there's another one down the block. I know I've got relatives that have stores built closer to them, bigger variety of stuff, but they will not go to them because they've set in mind they really like that supplier. They've developed that long-term relationship. They've got a broad offering. They know that they're getting quality. They know that when they go there, the product that they want will be on the shelves. And if not, they will get better service. Okay, so again, as we're talking about this, really focus on the supplier part of it, the long-term relationship. Talk to consolidations. Supplier consolidations does a couple things. It increases your leverage and reduces your supplier variation. It also sets the groundwork for future with the winners in your supply base. Okay? Again, what you're looking at is you're taking a supply base that may be include 100, 200 different suppliers. Sat through the presentation earlier where they had a supply base of 600 suppliers. And you're talking about reducing that number of suppliers, consolidating them down so you can increase your leverage, easier to build relationships, reduce the product variation, reduce the transactions, and improve your cost and service. Increase leverage. Most of us are in the manufacturing field or supply customers, correct? I would imagine that most of us also have one or two primary customers that make up maybe a good percentage, 25, 30%, 40% of your customer base, your volume or your revenue base, okay? If that's the case, then you have to set priorities on who gets the product. You're going to focus on that customer that gives you the most volume that you do not want to risk to lose. So when you consolidate your supply base, you're essentially putting majority of your business into a single supplier, and that supplier then will likely have you as their primary customer who they will do anything to satisfy. Okay? You also get an opportunity to build relationships. As the EasyGo presentation earlier was talking about taking it down from 600 to 200. In our case, we took material suppliers from 26 down to roughly 13. What it does is it gives you an opportunity to spend more time with that supplier, going on plant visits, communicating with that organization, having them visit you. You have the time to build those relationships that you otherwise wouldn't. Reduce product variation. Even if you're purchasing the same part, there is going to be variations even if they're building it under the same spec. And reduced variation definitely helps your manufacturing processes. Reduce transactions, we're going to talk about a couple of things, SMI being one that allows you the opportunity to reduce transactions. But just think about it naturally. If you take 600 suppliers that are billing you on a monthly basis, and you drop that down by a third or 2/3 down to 200, you've at least saved yourselves 400 times 12, 48,000. My math is very, very poor right now off the cuff, but you're saving yourself all those different transactions. You're cutting it down. So you're saving your administration people. You may even be able to lower your headcount or at least refocus them on more value-added things than paper pushing. Improve cost and service. Again, we'll talk through that more as we go. What I want to offer to you is, we call it one way to consolidate. And this is the method that the Altoona plant went through, and we're offering it to you as an example. It's not the best way to go. I can't tell you that it's right for every organization, but for us it worked. First and foremost is developed and fleshed out the long-term strategy. As we talked to earlier, you have to do this up front. You want to take a look at the entire package, really understand what your options are, understand what it's going to take to get there, and the timeline. You want to get all your stakeholders' commitment. As I mentioned before, your entire supply chain, your accounting and financial management folks, your plant operations, your Highland Heights corporate supply chain and sourcing groups, et cetera. Get everybody on board up front, and determine what metrics you're going to use to evaluate. Again, you want to take a look at really understanding not only the metrics. You talk about service, quality. You can have the basic ones as far as fulfillment, whatnot. But you also want to understand what the priorities are, and is that measure truly needed to suit your intended vision, your intended strategy of the supplier relationship. Once you have that all in place, we recommend getting all of your category suppliers together in one room and lay out the strategy to them. And in Altoona's case, we brought, our material parts include wire, terminals, rubber insulators, the shelf carton, and the outer packaging. So in our case, rubber insulators. We got all of our insulator suppliers together, brought them into the same room, laid out the strategy to them, told them what our intentions to consolidate to the best overall supplier, the timeline we were expecting it, what we would consider to be or make somebody the best overall supplier, how we were going to rate and evaluate them, et cetera, et cetera. We also shared with them what the opportunities are for them. It's not, again, just about General Cable Altoona. This is about what's a win-win relationship. And we're telling the suppliers, we're going to expect a lot from you, but in return, we have a lot to offer. And that's including a committed partnership, that's included additional volume, additional revenues, and additional opportunities to improve their businesses. Once you've had that meeting, you start collecting the data, start collecting the information, and all of your stakeholders, or the key stakeholders, look at it and evaluate which of those suppliers fit into that long-term strategy. Once you've got that done, we recommend start soon, but manage the pace. That means as you've gathered your your suppliers together. You've told them what you're going to do. You've told them you're essentially going to be consolidating, so some of them may be out of business, some of them may be gaining business. You want to start soon and start with those consolidations so that folks can understand this is real. We are truly going down this path. We are truly going to show the suppliers that are of value, that we value them, and that we're moving in their direction. But of course, we want to manage the pace. You can't take 600 suppliers and drop it down to 200 in the matter of a week or a month with one decision. It's going to take time. You want to manage that so you're able to successfully consolidate within a given pace so that you are continually successful. So again, there are no doubts as to the future success of this program. Finally, one of the very important concepts with this is that you have selected the chosen few based on what they will offer to you, based on their ability to provide what you value. Okay? With the understanding is that if you're doubling the volume that you currently have with that supplier, they may not yet have the full capacity or capability to take that on. So you need to work with that chosen few and help them develop not only their capacity, but their capabilities to perform. You know, if you've chosen these 4 items to be your key metrics, and there's a couple that, yeah, they don't do as good as some of the others, but you know, that's the give and take. Well, here's your opportunity to help them develop in these categories as well, so that they continue to be that overall best supplier for you. In Altoona's case, early on we had 15 core suppliers, and again, I'm talking to just those core materials, the wire, the terminals, the insulators, our inner cartons, and our outer packaging. I'm not talking about MRO supplies or expense items. All of those items can fall into a supplier partnership package, okay? And in fact, in our environment, most have. But what we're concentrating on is just this scope. We went from that 15 suppliers to have 92% of our spend with only 7 suppliers. And if you take a look at here, our wire is provided by our sister plant, Lincoln. We have now 2 core raw material suppliers or insulator suppliers as opposed to 7 or 8 suppliers that we had before. Terminals, we've got 1. Inner boxes, we've got 1. And then we've got a scattering of other suppliers that cover the rest of the items. But we've really taken it down so that, again, we can start building, that we did start building that relationship with those individual suppliers. Here I just want to show you a couple things. This is one of our raw material suppliers, rubber insulator, RI Supplier A. A couple things I want to show you is just really the growth that we have had with that specific supplier. 2 key points here. You see a ramp-up session, okay? You see a ramp-up session because we managed the pace of that transition, all right? We did not interrupt our businesses. We managed the pace to avoid that. We also managed the pace to bring those suppliers up to speed. You also see the point, though, where now they have a fairly large concentration of volume. You're going to see ups and downs based on our demand. But again, you took a supplier that was below 4,000 and taken them above 10. Similarly, second supplier, again, same thing you'll notice. We've got an introductory period and we have a constant base with that supplier. A win-win for both.